So, okay, so Professor Proshanto Mukherjee, welcome to International Lawyer, Journal of East Asia and International Law. It's very the honor to have interview with such a leading international maritime lawyer like you. As a leading international lawyer, you will have really interesting stories, as well as great lessons for all of us, especially including the next generation. If you do not mind, we'd like to just ask your childhood, your personal story. Would you describe your family and your education path?
Thank you very much, Professor Lee. I'm delighted to meet you and delighted to participate in this interview. To answer your question, I guess I have to go a long ways back because I was born in August 1945. It's a long time ago.
Long time ago.
And I am now 78 years old. I was born in Calcutta in India. Now the name has changed to Kolkata.
Kolkata.
Yeah, but that time it was a British name, and it was still actually British India when I was born. India gained its independence 3 years later after I was born. But my name, Proshanto, is a Sanskrit name, which is the exact translation of Pacific, as in the ocean, Pacific Ocean.
That means Proshanto is Pacific.
Yes, Proshanto is Pacific. My surname, Mukherjee, is an abbreviation of another Sanskrit name, Mukhopadhyay. And Mukhopadhyay. Upadhyay in Sanskrit basically means a teacher or a lawyer or an intellectual person.
Guru.
Yeah.
Guru kind of guru.
Yes. And it's just coincidental that in my first life, I was a seafarer for 16 years, and I went over the Pacific Ocean.
Actually,
on
the sea.
At sea for so many years. And in my later life, which is my life even now, I'm a teacher basically, and teacher and academic. I write articles, books, and this and that, and I deal a lot with PhD work and research work. So somehow my name fits my career.
Your life career.
My life career.
Anyway, your life has something to do with sea or American.
Yes. But when I was young in Calcutta, I went to 3 different schools. A Catholic school, a Roman Catholic convent, Loreto Cialda it was called, run by Belgian and Italian nuns. That was my early education. Then I went to an American-style Methodist school. My middle school was in an American Methodist school. Christian. Then my latter period, high school period, was in the biggest Anglican school in Calcutta in those days. And of course, incidentally, I am a non-practicing Christian, if you may, And even though my name reflects the caste system of ancient India, ancient Hindu India, I am not a follower of the caste system. But totally out of that. But of course, you cannot just get rid of your name. Your name is your original identity. That's how it is. So when I finished school, I attended University of Calcutta for 2 years. I was enrolled into the Bachelor of Science program. But I did not continue because in those days in India it was very, very difficult to cultivate a career. And I had an opportunity to build a career as a seafarer, to go to the training ship Dufferin, which was originally a British ship, and then it was brought over to Mumbai. At that time it was called Bombay, India. And it was a tough sort of competition to get in. And I was able to get in. I trained there for 2 years. Then I joined the Shipping Corporation of India, which is the biggest shipping company. I was an apprentice there, or cadet, as they call it, for 3 years. Then I served there as a third officer, third mate, after I passed the second mate's examination in India. I also passed the first mate's examination in India, but my master's certificate of competency, I obtained it in Canada because by that time, after being around halfway around the world, I lived in Germany for several years, and I migrated to Canada. So it was then that I wrote the master's examination there, and so I held the master's foreign going certificate of competency. Today's STCW convention didn't even exist. It didn't come around till 1978. So I'm talking about pre-STCW days, you know. And so I served in the German Merchant Marine, Canadian, British Merchant Marine, and when I was in Canada, I also served with an American company, but the ships were registered in Bermuda. Bermuda belongs to what is called the Red Ensign Group. It's one of the British flag jurisdictions. Yeah. So I served there, and then I wasn't quite sure. Nothing was very well planned in my life. Things happen, you know, and I did not hesitate too much to grab an opportunity if I saw it in front of me.
It's a kind of karma.
Just, you know, went from one boy to another, as you would do, navigating in a channel, you know. So I joined the Bedford Institute of Oceanography, and that was a Canadian government research center, and they had several research ships. So after my service on commercial ships, when I was offered to work on a research ship, I was quite glad. And in the meantime, I also started going to university, back again after a long break.
Yes.
I went to Dalhousie University to study law.
Right. So you have some worldwide academic backgrounds, including India, Canada, UK, I mean just Wales, and even Sweden. How did you get the chances to,
again, as I said,
to
it was
study.
all very unplanned. Unplanned, but
accidental.
Things happen. I went to study law when I met Professor Edgar Gold, who was like my background. He was originally a master mariner, captain of ships. Then he went to study law, and he then organized the maritime law department at Dalhousie Law School. And I was one of his earlier students in that faculty, and I studied law under him. I also studied law of the sea. And I was quite fortunate to have as my professor Douglas Johnston, originally a Scotsman, who's, by the way, he spoke Mandarin. It was one of those things about him as a Scotsman. He spoke, I think he spent several years in China.
In China.
So Douglas Johnston was my professor. Another professor I had was a very distinguished person. He came from London School of Economics at Dalhousie, and he was Professor Dolliver Nelson, who later was a judge in ITLOS. And of course he's passed away a few years ago, but he was one of my professors, and he was a very generous professor, I would say. I don't consider myself extremely, well-heeled at the time, but I got an A+ from him. And he encouraged me to publish my thesis, and that was my very first academic publication in the Dalhousie Law Journal. Sorry, no, that one was in Marine Policy, way back, and it was 1980 or 81 or something
we
like
refer
that.
to the Marine Policy
I'm still associated with them almost every day. I have something to do with Marine Policy. But before that, I had published in the Dalhousie Law Journal, I had published an article about the law of ship grounding. And that was my very first publication. And then Marine Policy, I wrote an article about the Marine Scientific Research, MSR, the consent regime in the Law of the Sea Convention on that. And so those were my first two early publications. And then,
I know also Professor Ronald McDonald there.
yes, yes, yes.
He was one of the mentors.
He was Dean of Law when I was a student.
Oh, really?
And later he was a judge in the European Court of Justice,
yeah.
ECJ. Yes, of course. I knew him personally, very well.
One of my just very early publications was the Journal of History of International Law, which was edited by Ronald McDonald.
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
He
yes.
gave a lot of some directions and advices how to just publish the article at that journal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good old days, I must say.
Great, Canada. And you were the PhD from University of Wales.
Yes, I did my PhD at Cardiff. At
Cardiff,
that
Cardiff,
time it was
Cardiff.
University of Wales, Cardiff.
Yeah.
Now it is Cardiff University because they split up, Cardiff and Swansea.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was a comprehensive
It
university.
was a
really?
comprehensive,
The
yeah.
Belgian university.
Like London
Yeah,
University.
Yes, under the umbrella of the University of Wales.
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
So
Just-
my degree is called University of Wales, Cardiff.
Cardiff.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, I did my PhD there, and again, I had two supervisors. One was in private law, one public law. The private law supervisor was Professor Cadwallader, FJJ. Everybody called him Cad. Also Welshman, and he actually passed away towards the very end of my research. He passed away, but he was my main supervisor. I had a second supervisor who was Eddie Brown, also from Cardiff.
Cardiff.
Yeah, but he was in public law, law of the sea. He wrote a famous book about he coined that term called hydrospace. The legal regime of hydrospace.
Hydrospace.
Yeah, he wrote that book. One of those great grandfather law of the sea books.
The
legal regime of
hydrospace is that defined by him.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hydrospace.
Yeah, yes. But I met both of them through association with my immediate superior at the time was Professor Patricia Burney. She also came from London School of Economics, and she was the first director of the International Maritime Law Institute. And I was her deputy. So I was a founding deputy director and professor of maritime law. And she introduced me to these two
Institute.
professors from
From
Cardiff. So that was a little bit of my background there.
And then you went to some Sweden and got
Yes.
the LLD from the University of Lund.
I will explain what that is. What happened was I was then kind of picked up by C.P. Srivastava, IMO Secretary General, founder of World Maritime University. Yeah.
University.
And he saw me in the hall because I was in the Canadian delegation to IMO. And he saw me around, kind of wanted to meet with me. He got somebody to find out who I was. And he was interested because I was a lawyer with mariner's background. I was a captain at sea.
Practicing background.
So he was looking for somebody like that. And so he invited me to lunch, we discussed, and he wanted to offer me a consultancy position at IMO. And but he said, you don't have to quit your job, but you stay with the Canadian government. I was working for the Legal Services Department of Fisheries and Oceans Canada, Attorney General's office. And plus I had a private practice on the side. After I entered the bar. Yeah, two jobs. After I entered the bar, Ontario bar, I was a barrister and a solicitor. And then I also became a notary public in Ontario. So I was doing all of those things. And it's now seems like so many years ago, but C.P. Srivastava sent me to Imli in Malta after I did a number of consultancies missions for IMO. And my main job was to advise developing countries on how to develop maritime legislation, and that was my field: maritime legislation and maritime administration. Two things. So the maritime administration part was, of course, I usually had a counterpart appointed by IMO to look at that, and the legislation things I did it all by myself. So that was how it happened, and then I went into, after IMLI, I went to the Caribbean. I did a big project for IMO, known as the WCISW project. It was funded by the World Bank. And then I got brought back to IMO by the new Secretary General. He was a Canadian, O'Neill. He brought me back and sent me to WMU. So this was how I got into WMU. And,
in Sweden.
In Sweden. That was my connection with Sweden.
For you were working in Sweden for 12 years.
More than
12 years.
I think it was
quite long.
Lund University, there's another story. How it happened was, when I was at WMU, the president was Karl Lobstein. They all passed away now, you know. Karl Lobstein was a great president of World Maritime University, and he wanted me to put together a team. So we applied for membership of European Universities Association and be recognized as a European university. It wasn't going to happen very quickly because WMU was small, only one degree, a master's degree. So Karl Lobstein then, he told me, you have to set up a PhD program. So I said, well, I will need to take advice from some of my colleagues from Swansea, from Wales. And the Dean of Law at the time was a former classmate of mine at Wales, Swansea. And I took advice and we set up a joint program of only doing maritime law PhD. With Swansea University, you know. I think it lasted about 6 or 8 years or something like that. But at the same time, I was approached by somebody from the Swedish government. He was IMO connected. I didn't know him very well, but he knew me from seeing my face at IMO, attending meetings, conferences and all that. So he came to me and said, we would like to have a PhD program at a Swedish university in maritime law, because we don't have anything like that. So I said, well, I would first have to ask my president. So president was Karl Lobstein. He was very happy. He said, if you want to do it, let's do it by collaboration.
If you want, you can do it.
And let's do it by collaboration. So I then was instrumental in setting up the joint program with Lund University. I did have a co-director, Lasher and Malmberg from Lund University, and we worked together, set up the program, and we ran a program both in Masters, LLM, and PhD. Both together at Lund University. And so Lund University then offered me an honorary doctorate to recognize my contribution. 7 years I was with them.
There 7 years.
Yes.
You're working for
Lund University.
Lund University for 7 years.
So they honored me by offering a Doctor of Laws, LLD, Juris Doctor Honoris Causa. I think I have that paper here somewhere. Maybe it's that one there. Juris Doctor Honoris Causa. And so that was my association with Lund University. And even after I retired from WMU, I continued there for 2 more years, I think.
2 more years. Okay.
Then I retired, but
from Sweden.
From Sweden, yes. From both Lund and WMU.
WMU,
I retired.
There. Lund is one of the top
universities in Europe.
Especially, it was really top ranked in the field of the biology.
Yes.
Yeah, biology.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
it's very famous in European.
I'm still connected with them.
Still connected with
Yeah.
you. Oh.
The maritime law program was going to die after I left, but
I'm sorry.
I tried to persuade the parties involved to keep it going, and right now the lady who runs the program is my ex-student, graduated both with her LLM and her PhD with me at Lund University. She now runs the program.
Runs the
there.
program.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Good,
The
good.
director of the maritime law program there. So my connections are still there, you know, with those.
Is it recording well? Okay, so, and the World Maritime University and Lund University, they are all Swedish university. I mean, not
No.
Swedish. World Maritime
Sweden.
Yeah,
In Sweden, yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay. And you also served as a professorial chair at the IMO, International Maritime
Yes.
Law Institute,
Yes,
in Malta
In
from
Malta.
1989 to 1996
that's correct.
for about
yes.
7 years.
7 years. Yes.
Okay, how about your life and your work in Malta?
Again, that was an appointment made by Secretary General Srivastava. I was there for 7 years, and it was tough in the beginning because it was new, and I had to deal with basic things like making sure we had electricity, making sure we had water, all of those things. And it was a small institution, but then we got into research and expanded, and the faculty also expanded. Today, the faculty there is much bigger than when I was there, when we started. But we did both public international law, law of the sea,
Law of the sea.
and we did private law as well. I was a member of the board of governors also, and also professor of maritime law
Maritime law.
there, and the number 2 person who was called the senior deputy director in an IMO designation. So I held all those positions there and steered the university through for 7 years, and then I retired from there.
Oh,
When I left IMLI, I wanted to go back to private practice actually.
again. You went back to the
Yeah.
private practice.
So, but the next Secretary General, he wanted me to come back. That was O'Neill. So I was practicing law in Cayman Islands for a short time. Also because the Cayman Islands Shipping Authority, they wanted me to be a consulting lawyer for them. Cayman Islands Shipping Authority. Now it is called Maritime Authority of Cayman Islands, MACI.
MACI.
Those days it was called something else, Shipping SICR, or CISR. Cayman Islands Shipping Registry was the name. So when I was doing that work, of course, my connection was with the Foreign Commonwealth Office of the UK, because all those countries, they were called overseas territories. They came under the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office. So my connection in terms of doing my kind of work, especially doing legislation work, that was my main task there. Had to connect and cooperate with the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. So then I came back to
Dalian.
Yeah.
So how did you come to Dalian?
When
It's
very
really
interesting.
story.
When I retired from Lund University, some years before that, I had met a professor from the law school here, a lady professor. She used to go to all these meetings, CMI meetings and all that. And so I first met her at a CMI meeting. I think it was in Canada, in Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I may have met her even before that, but I didn't know her very well. In Vancouver, I sort of met her, and around that time, in 2003 or 4, Dalian Maritime University approached WMU to do a collaboration.
Collaboration
Yes.
project. Mhm.
And the person appointed was my colleague, who was also vice president, Shoma.
Mm.
You know, he was vice president academic. He was assigned to put together the China program, as we called it. One in Dalian and one in Shanghai. You know. But of course, he engaged me because I was his colleague, and so when I was coming to Dalian in connection with that program, this Professor Han Lixen, who I had met before, she invited me to do a public lecture to the law school. And so I think there's a picture of it somewhere there, up there. Twice I think I did some public lectures at
You were
the law
invited
school.
to Dalian
Invited to,
University
yeah,
for public
yeah.
lectures twice.
Yes.
And then
And then one day,
you were,
on one of those visits, then director of the international office and Professor Han Lixen came to see me at my hotel, and they wanted me to join the law school
law school as a professor.
as a professor.
Oh,
And
wow.
I said, I'm retired, but this sounds good. So I liked Dalian, always did. And I said, okay, I'm agreeable. So originally, I agreed to come for 1 year. In 2013, I came
You finally-
for 1 year, yeah. But 1 year has become 11 years.
Oh, still going on.
Still going on.
Still going.
Yeah. After that 1 year, then they offered me to stay for another 5 years, and then another 5 years, and so it has become
Oh,
11 years.
11 years. Yeah. You didn't have a chance to rest.
No, no.
Wow.
Yeah. But,
Yeah. So
but
you,
I like it here.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good place.
so you have been deeply involved in the IMO for many years. Could you evaluate the past, present, future of IMO and its activities? Okay. So, as a specialized agency of the United Nations.
In my experience, IMO has changed a lot, but it is still undergoing changes. Basically, from my times, not only the staff of IMO, but members of delegations to IMO, compared with the people of today, they were very conservative. Very conservative in their approach.
Yeah.
And changes would take place very slowly in those days. That, of course, and again, IMO was preoccupied with a number of things. C.P. Srivastava wanted to help developing countries. So he set up this whole department or division of technical cooperation, it's called TCD, Technical Cooperation Division. And under the mantle of the TCD, many projects were undertaken by IMO on two fronts. One is to develop the legal regimes of those countries, to help them to join IMO conventions, implement the IMO conventions through national legislation and through building up their maritime administrations. So that was what was happening in those days, mostly. And I was quite deeply involved in many of those projects, including the World Bank project, which took place in the Caribbean. The head office was in Trinidad and Tobago, Port of Spain. But changes take place. Now the IMO is preoccupied with huge advances in technology. The big project is MASS, MASS, Maritime Autonomous Surface Ships. In the very early days, there was not a lot of support, either from delegations or from within the IMO. But I see a lot of changes are happening now. But as dynamic as IMO has become in recent times, they still have a long way to go. And I can understand why that level of conservatism is still there.
Mhm.
Technology moves too
Moves
fast.
Too fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see there's a little thing I hear on TV. Technology moves at the speed of sound.
Speed of sound.
Yeah, the speed of sound. But the law moves like a snail.
Snail.
Space. That's that sort of thing. So those changes are happening as we speak.
Mhm.
Major changes in the makeup of the staff at IMO.
Mhm.
Recently, the new Secretary General is from Panama. The previous one was from your country.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know that? Yeah.
Oh.
And he was a student of mine at WMU many years ago.
Mhm.
Kitat Lim.
Mhm.
And I think his classmate was, what's his name?
Xiao Jian.
Yeah? No, the one who just recently retired.
Zhang
Zhang Renping.
Zhang Renping.
I
Yeah.
think Zhang Renping was
Same.
Kitat Lim's classmate.
Mhm.
I think, yeah. Now I'm losing my memory. It's so many years,
No
this
problem,
is like
no
late
problem.
90s
It's really
I'm talking
interesting.
about. Late
Ah.
90s, yeah. Some very, people who are now very eminent
Mm.
came out of those classes,
Mhm.
Judges, chief justices, judges, and, ministers, ambassadors and all that. Oh, there were students in my class in those days.
What should they do? I mean, just what should IM do for some reformation? I mean, just
Well,
towards direction.
it is already doing. It is trying to keep pace with the technological developments, but the problem is that there is always this disparity between developed and developing.
development.
And personally, I do see that problem. Mass is moving ahead.
Mhm.
There's a mass code being developed by IMO. And when I read the draft mass code, I see a lot of new elements are being introduced and all that. But then I also wonder, developing countries who are aspiring to enter the maritime world in a big way, where are they going to go? I know they don't have that technology, and they don't have the money to buy that
Buy that,
technology. They have to depend on the developed countries helping them with it. So that moves slowly. Mind you, IMO still has a TCD. Not too long ago, I did a seminar at IMO, and it was designed to help, again, developing countries. And a lot of the representatives at that seminar, I recognized them. They were graduates of mine from WMU or from IMLI or somewhere or another. And that activity is ongoing at IMO.
Ah,
But the technology side is also advancing.
advancing. Okay.
I think
balance between
the
the two.
balance
Mm.
has to be maintained.
Maintain.
Yeah.
Okay. Steep, yeah.
And the biggest criticism that I hear about mass
Yeah.
is that what about these seafaring countries?
Mhm.
All these, they're poor countries basically. They are not rich countries. Philippines, Indonesia, India, China, and in the Europe as well, one or two countries. And the talk now is, well, what's going to happen to these seafarers? Some of them, the economy depends on seafarers' incomes. I mean, Philippines is a classic example. It's
Even
been
whole
like that for
national economy
years.
depends on seafarers' income.
Exactly.
Wow.
Seafarers' income is
Wow.
a big part of the national economy.
National GDP. Wow.
Yeah. So what's going to happen to them? I don't see sufficient attention being paid to that. I read in some articles, saying, all these seafarers, they will undergo new training and they will all become button pushers, techies.
Yeah, remote operator. Yeah.
How to do all this pushing buttons, and they will be manning the shore stations and all that. I'm not so sure that's a very practical solution. I wrote an article, it's published in
Yeah.
Tafsir Johansson's book about the legal position of the shore-based remote controller.
Yeah,
of
shore-based.
mass, shore-based,
Based on your background,
Yeah.
this is question relating to the mass.
Okay.
Is as artificial intelligence advance, shipping industry is ongoing. There is a post-industrial revolution. The many shipping countries are still trying to develop autonomous vessels is mass.
Yeah.
As also is IMO to make the mandatory regulatory instrument such as this mass code. So as you is a distinguished maritime law expert or professor, what is yours perspective on this mass in the maritime law?
Well, as I have to continue what I was saying,
Yeah.
in principle, I think it's a great idea, but it has to be considered in light of other factors,
Yeah.
such as the disparity between developed countries and developing countries in the global maritime world. And you see, it's ironic that in the post-World War II period, the number of sovereign states almost doubled because all the colonies became
Yes, they are all
independent
independent.
countries. But they were all developing countries. They were all poor countries, still relying on their ex-colonial masters. That is changing in many respects. But there's still quite a long way to go. So the technological development, I personally do support it, but I have my reservations that no matter which way we go, we cannot simply jettison the interests of the seafaring communities of the world. We have to find ways to go through that process, the evolution of changing from traditional seafaring into artificial intelligence, into mass, into any of those very modern things. I think some of the very bright younger people, they want to move too fast. They have gained the momentum. Intellectually, they are superb. There's no doubt about it. I have many who've been in my class like that. But I always have to caution them. You always have to look back a little bit. Yeah, a little bit and see. You can't simply let go of the community of seafarers worldwide which we have today, and also consider the fact that there are so many countries that depend on seafaring. So that's my take on it. And the other part, to go back to how I think as a lawyer,
Yeah.
Mass is telling us there's a lot of law reform necessary.
Necessary. Yeah.
It's fundamental.
Fundamental.
Oh.
And a lot of it is necessary. And we have to move in that direction, And there should be more interaction between, let's say, a university like DMU, more interaction between like the law school and the engineering school.
Engineering school.
We don't have that as yet. And it's not just DMU, in many other places. That collaboration between science and technology
And
on
law.
the one side and law on the other
The other
side.
side.
Yeah.
They go together.
That has to happen. And I know it's a slow process, but it has to happen. We cannot go in two different ways, So one of my criticisms, and I'm saying this quite openly, one of my criticisms when I was with the IMO, very often the MSc and the MEPC, they wouldn't talk to the legal committee.
Yeah. It's technical.
Yeah, the technical people wouldn't talk to the legal people. Legal people wouldn't talk to the technical people. They're going in different directions, And I never liked that. I always thought that they should be working towards a common objective.
Even it's the committees are it's very important. This committee in the IMO because it's a 90% of the IMO convention is is established by the MSC, MEPC. Yeah.
So
Also, probably I have another question.
sure.
Do you have this really unique academic experience across the European country and this Asian country? I think what are your thoughts on the significance of the maritime law education and the direction for each future development in the Asian country?
My observation is that in the Asian country, this recognition of the need for advancement in the maritime law, I think is happening more than in Europe and North America. That is my observation. I was born in India. I was kind of disconnected from India for a long time. But now again I'm back because I'm getting invited by Indian universities all the time. And what I'm noticing in the last 10 years, so many universities in India want to get into the maritime law field. You see that Centurion University, that's one of them. I just got that as an award, honorary roll. And another, if you open the red box, there was another one very recently. I was given that by an Indian university.
Yes.
You see, just recently I got this.
Oh.
And so what it is telling me is that a lot of universities in a developing country like India are recognizing the importance of maritime law in tandem with the importance of shipping as a global activity. So I think comparatively speaking, in Europe it's a bit more static. I don't know, maybe your experience may be different, but Swansea does maritime.
Yeah.
Southampton has gone down, and Tulane does maritime. Greenwich does a little bit of maritime, but I don't see a huge. Dalhousie does maritime, but I don't see a huge effort being expended in Europe and North America. I see more effort being expended in this part of the world, in the Asian side. And now some African countries are very interested in pursuing maritime law, because a lot of the leaders in those countries graduating from these universities and going back. You see in DMU so many African students now. So large number. When they go back, they want to use their knowledge they gained here, and they put it into action. And somebody like me or him, we would encourage that. Of course, you would like to see that happening.
This morning I just heard that there is a student from North Korea.
Oh, he's my student.
Oh.
He's my
Really?
PhD student. Yeah.
Wow.
He is now in Dandong, which is near the border. And he's my student for the last 3 years or so. He's
a truly globalist.
he's passed the midterm, and a pretty bright guy, and he's done, I think he's got about 3 publications. One of them is jointly with me, and he's done a couple of others. So he's a good student, I must say.
Wow, your dedication is really impressive. So today the more Asian international lawyers are interested in the international maritime affairs.
Yes.
And so I hope, could you share your wisdom with your generation, how to build up their own career academically and practically in this field?
Again, I have to be honest and open that young people, obviously very ambitious, they have many aspirations, but they can't do this on their own. They have to do it within the scope, within the perimeters of universities. And sometimes I feel that the universities impose requirements that are sometimes unreasonable, difficult for these young people to keep up. And whether even compliance with those requirements, whether that is a good thing or not, sometimes I'm not sure about it. Some universities, including DMU, the authorities from the Ministry of Education or whatever, which the dictates come down the stream into the campuses. They insist on students, the senior students, and even the lower level of faculty. If they don't publish in SSCI journals, they won't get promotion.
No promotion.
If they, Now, sometimes I find that in the maritime field, in my field, actually, there are journals that are not associated, but they are top notch.
Yeah, top.
They are at the top. And why should we deprive young academics to not to publish them? You know, I always encourage them to publish there. And but there is a negative side to what I just said. I know of cases where some journal would advertise through certain fields that if you pay me so and so much money, I will publish your article. And that is happening.
Yeah.
That is not academic merit, in my opinion. That should absolutely be banned. That young people should stand by integrity. Honesty and integrity is number one.
Number one, honesty and integrity.
And it has to go together with the merits. You know, a lot of young, intelligent, smart people, but they should not be misguided. They should not go into the wrong direction. And they should not fall into this trap that, oh, if I can pay some money to some publisher or to some journal, I will get my paper published. That is not a good thing.
That is not.
Yeah. So my advice to the younger generation who want to pursue maritime law is learn from your teachers, learn from your seniors, and interact with academics worldwide, and never sacrifice your integrity. Always hold strong to, you know, to merit is the most important thing. That's my message to young people.
Honest and integrity.
Yes.
Yeah, very moved by your lessons for the younger generation, even including me. Yeah, great. So, we have to just follow the lessons, honesty and integrity. Never sacrifice integrity.
That.
Yeah. So, wow, thank you so much for your
Not at all, my pleasure.
talks and discussion about your academic career and your practical experiences. Yeah, both of which are very wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, so, thank you so much for
Thank you for coming over, and
yeah,
you know,
our
I'm very, very delighted,
suggestion
pleased.
Right, okay. So, thank you.
And I must say I enjoyed the visit to your country not too long ago. It was really fantastic.
Yeah.